Hey guys, it's Prophet. I just wanted to get this video out with the editor to give an introduction to it. I've been trying and I keep getting interruptions. I don't have a big corporate office or anything. I do everything in my home office and I have 3 kids and a puppy. So chances are there's going to be an interruption. I'm just going to deal with it this time because it's just getting impossible. With the length of the video, I just can't get the kids and the puppy to leave me alone long enough. So before I get started with the editor, I just wanted to say about the trailer. Salamander had told me privately about some concerns and problems he had with it. There's too long of a stretch at the end of it after the narration ends, and I agree with him completely. And I did see that it was a problem. I thought maybe it'd be okay to add some drama. I want to get everybody else's opinion on it. And Salamander, if when you have a problem with something, don't be scared that you're going to hurt my feelings or generate a bad vibe for the game. The whole point of doing this and having the alpha group is because I want you guys to have a voice and to have input on to how the game's developed. So anybody that has any concerns, problems with anything that's going on in the game through this early development and later on in it, don't be scared to just say, "Hey, this sucks." And give your opinion of why you think it does. A lot of times, as the game gets developed more, the problems that you have are going to be symptoms and not the actual problem. But I think if we all work together, we can take those symptoms and we can find out what the problem is, and then we can get it fixed. So thank you, Salamander, for letting me know your problems with the trailer. It does. I explained to him that every time I do an edit, that I change it right now because I'm using APM music. Every time I do, I have to pay another $100 for the license. And that's fine. If I have to fix it, that's fine. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait and leave this trailer the way it is. And I want everybody to tell me everything that's wrong with it so that I can go through and edit it and not be out a ton of money just trying to get the trailer done. So please take a look at the trailer. Tell me the different problems you have, any suggestions you have to improve it, and we'll work from there. Alright, so on to the editor. Alright, so we just get into the main menu and click the editor. We can enter our name and hit enter world. When we come in, we've got our terrain settings. We can set the width, length, and height. These are measured in meters. Well, actually it's a unit, but 1 unit is a meter, roughly. When we click create terrain, it's going to create our terrain with whatever texture it is that we have selected. So I'll select this one. Right now, I think about the limit would be 10,000 meters by 10,000 meters. I've got it up to around 20,000 by 20,000 and it runs okay, but there are some graphical errors. Some of them disappear when you load it into the game. For right now, though, I just recommend staying at 10,000 meters by 10,000 meters or lower. I'll get it fixed up so we can make it bigger. I've ran it with over around 1 million, and there's lots of graphical errors, but for performance wise it runs fine. So I think eventually I'll be able to move this up so it's basically unlimited. Obviously the bigger your terrain, the more work you have to do to make it, and I think until people are more used to the level editor, it's best to keep them smaller. Just for the sake of this video, I'm doing a very small terrain so that I don't have to fill it up with a bunch of stuff, just because I just want to give an introduction of it. So we hit create terrain, and now we can change, raise and lower the height map of the terrain. So we've got different brushes. We've got soft brushes and hard brushes. The softer ones all taper off in some way or another. These ones taper off on the edges. So if we build it up here, it just makes it kind of a rounded hill. Versus if we take this one that's a hard brush, it brings it all up just from the same strength. There are some other ones that are soft and hard in different ways. This one obviously is making it more similar to a ramp. And then I've got some that just are good for adding detail to spots. And then some are just good for adding some randomness. And then you can change the size of the brush, and you can change how aggressive it is, the amount that it's going to be pushing through. So if we bring it up quite a bit, you can see that it comes up really fast. And these jagged edges are not very desirable. And so what we're going to do is now go to the smoothing tool, and this obviously would be used to smooth out so that we don't have the jagged edges. And so it just kind of blends them together. And then obviously you can change the size and the amount with all of the tools. All right, then we've also got a select height or a paint height. So if we bring this down really low, you can see, well, it should have stopped there. Oh, because I don't have the amount up. All right, we'll bring it down really low. You can see that it just paints it to that height. And then if we raise it up, it paints it higher. And I'll make sure that it has a digital readout so we can select exactly the amount we want and see. For right now, though, I'm just going to clear all these out and just have a nice flat terrain. If you really take your time on the height map, you can make some really cool things. Alright, so then besides that, we have a texture brush. And so if we click Add New Texture, we can select the textures that we want. This one is a mud texture, and I'll make sure and get the icon to look more like what the texture does. Alright. I just select a few kind of randomly. So it goes the same way. You can pick the target value for how much of the texture is visible and the amount. So like right now it's just on full, but we can bring it down so it blends more. And you can see that it's a lot lighter and it blends more with the other texture. I'm just going to go through and paint it back. Alright, so now we can go to the objects, and we've got level objects and game logic. I'm going to go to the level first, and I'm going to do buildings first. So these are just some sample buildings I have right now. I'll definitely get more in. So if we just click on the building and drag it in, we can place it in. And then we can change its position on its X, Y, and Z axis. Right now the little graphical glitches is just in the editor. It won't happen in the game. It's just because we want to make sure and be able to see the object we're working with. And so we have the collider is just being rendered with this illumination, this green illumination. And then when I'm not clicked on it, you can see the building has a green tint, and that's still just in the editor and won't be in the game. So we can also change its rotation on its X, Y, and Z. And I'll make sure and get the rotation put more in the center so that we can pivot it on its center point. We can also change the height or the size of the object. Just for the sake of the game, I'm just going to keep it at default. Or for the video, I'm going to keep it at default. And then I'll throw in one of these little survival style buildings. Yeah, let's move that one back a little bit. So then we've also got roads, which right now it says obstacles, but they're roads. And they work the same way. You can just drag them in and then pivot them so that they're oriented the way that you want. And we can duplicate this by either hitting the clone button, and then we can drag where we want it. Right now I don't have the snapping on because there was a small glitch with it, and it just made it so it was harder to work with. We can also use a hotkey to duplicate, which is Control-D, and it will duplicate the game object. And we can do that with all the roads. Right now the only problem with these, we can do it with all the game objects. Right now the only problem is that this icon is misrepresenting the game object that's being placed in. And it's a really easy fix. The only reason I didn't fix it is because I wanted to have an example so that you guys could see problems that can come up. Obviously, this is something really easy to fix. All I have to do is just render a different icon that represents the object. If you come across an object that the icon doesn't match, please tell me so that I can fix it, because that can just be really annoying. Alright. If you take your time, you can line them up a lot better. And with the snapping going in, it won't be a problem anymore. So now we'll just go and we'll paint texture. We'll get some grass on there. And I'm just going to paint this one hard for right now. And we'll just add some dirt here quick too. Sidewalk and a driveway. I picked the soft one here because I wanted the edges to blend with the grass. And we'll put the driveway right. Yeah, we'll have it right here. And like I said, if you take your time, you can get a lot better results. I'm going to add a little bit of a mud texture underneath this just to give it some variety. And you won't see it really drastically because the other one's set more firm. So it's definitely more prominent. But it helps to break it up a little bit. Alright. Now, I'll just throw in... these miscellaneous ones I've been using just to test. And so they will all be getting their own tabs. These were the first roads that I had in just to test to see that it was working. This is for like an overpass highway system, which I still have to get the rest in. But you can set it up. There's another one that I have that's twice this high that you can bring it up. You can also use them all the way down so that they are like the regular roads. And there's on and off ramps and everything else that's going in it. So anyways, so in there right now is where I have the plants for the nature stuff. And I'll make sure they get their own tab. I just need to see which ones work really good and which ones don't. So same way, just drag and drop them in. I find it best when you're putting a tree in to give it a little bit of a random rotation from the other ones. Otherwise, they all look the same. And just for this, I'm just going to throw some randomly in here. And then we'll put a bush. Oh, geez, I forgot to say how to maneuver in here. Okay, so our W, A, S, and D is used to go in and out and left and right. If you hold the shift key, it goes fast. If you don't hold the shift key, it goes slow. And when you want to pivot the camera, if you hold the right mouse button, you can pivot the camera to orient where you want. If you have an object selected, you can hit the F key and it will focus onto the object. There are some other ones, and there is a small documentation here to show how things work. It's not all-inclusive right now. The hotkeys aren't listed as well. There's also a touchscreen function. I tested this on my wife's laptop, and it works pretty good. There's lots of times it can come in handy to be able to use touch, so I figure I'll keep working on that to bring it up. My main focus right now, though, is just on performance, getting any bugs worked out, and variety. I want to make sure there's a nice variety here of objects that we can place. So any suggestions that you guys have for objects to go in here, please make sure and let me know what's your dream world for a survival game or a game in general, and we can find some good standard objects to put in there so that you guys can create whatever you want, and then just grow each style from there until you're no longer limited by what objects are in. Alright, so then when we go to save our level, we can render the level icon. And this will be used to give people an idea of what your world is like. And then we can hit save, and you can see this level has saved at 0.5 megabytes. We can't load into the game right now because we haven't put any game logic in it. So I'll go back to the game logic. We have a player spawner. Right now this will only spawn this player. There will be more going in, and I'll try to get at least 3 or 4 of the players set up well so that you guys have a bit of an idea of the variation in them, and also then you have a little more freedom. Alright, so then you can also obviously place multiple player spawners. You don't want to have everybody spawn in the same spot. And then they're just selected randomly on which one you spawn at the start of the game. We also have item spawners in here. I have food, weapon, water, wood, and then this is a particle. This is just for a sample scene that I did. If you guys didn't watch the video, it's just a video of a cheetah jumping over a fence with some butterflies in it. And then this one, I decided that the cheetah was pretty cool, so I added an AI to it so you can get eaten by a cheetah. I'll get the other AI set up. Right now, the human AI is a little bit bugged. It works good, but in the editor, its navigation is not being rendered. So what I need to do is just set it up so that it can pick its navigation in the game. I have it set up for the game, the non-editor game, that it's all baked in and built into it. So it won't be a problem for the real game. But until I get the editor set up, I'm not sure if I'll include it or not in the early parts. It shouldn't take too long to figure something out for the editor, though. So we'll just see how it goes. But this isn't about the game logic and the AI about the game. This is about the level editor. All right, so now that we have some game logic and we can go ahead and test the level. So we're going to save it again. You can see it's still a half a megabyte. So now if we escape and exit out of the editor and we go to network, if we go to host game master server, we're not going to be able to load the game. And that's just because right now I need to put protections up so that people's editor maps are not being exploited by somebody else using their file over top of it. And when I move this all over to Steam Workshop, this won't be an issue anymore. I'll have everything set up so that it renders it over the network. And with the save size is pretty small, so it shouldn't be a problem. Until then, though, no public hosting of your games. It'll only be able to do private or local. So you can see if I go in and try to load the editor map, it's going to have an error up here that says we can't and give directions on how to do this. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to go to host game and we're going to go to local game. And this will host it on your local server for LAN play. But also you can have somebody connect to it with direct connect. This will have password protection. So if you do want to play with your friends on your map, you're going to, for right now, you'll have to give them your map file, your level file. And then when they go to load it in, they can hit and load it in. So I'll try to explain that better. So once we load in, we can hit spawn or respawn as it says there, and we go into the game. That's really all there is to it. Obviously I didn't show all the game objects, and I need to put a lot more objects and more logic into it. I do have a lot of props that I'm going through right now to get in. Furniture, there's right around 10,000 decorations for inside that I have for game objects. I need to go through them and pick just some good ones for the basic start, and then I'll slowly add them. I have a ton of game objects for buildings, roads, trees, the nature stuff. I need to know what you guys want, though, so please make sure and tell me the style of game that you want for the editor so I can get those objects in so we can start testing it. Thank you very much.